I'm Chelsea Soto, 29, from Fresno, California, a place where family shaped me in ways I never expected. Growing up as the middle child, I was always hustling for my place while my older brother effortlessly soaked up the spotlight, gifts, support, everything handed to him without a second thought. My sister floated somewhere in between, but I was the one scraping by, pouring myself into digital marketing ideas to escape their shadow. Years of feeling sidelined built a quiet fire inside me. But one moment, 5 years ago, changed everything. At a family dinner, my parents dropped a bombshell. They were giving my brother $80,000 for his wedding. When I asked for help with my crushing student loans, my mother's voice was cold and sharp. "You don't deserve any help." Those words hit harder than I can describe. That night, I made a choice that reshaped my life. I walked away from them completely. I buried myself in work, chasing dreams they never believed in. 2 years later, my sister drove through Fig Garden, saw my $5 million home, and called our mother in tears, demanding, "Why does she have that?" What happened next exposed truths I couldn't ignore. If this story of family betrayal and hard-won success hits home, hit that like button and subscribe for more raw, real-life drama. Let's dive in. The next morning, I woke with a clearer mind, but the sting of that dinner lingered. 5 years ago, at our Fresno family home, the air was thick with tension. My parents sat at the head of the table, beaming as they announced they'd gifted my brother $80,000 for his wedding. My heart sank, not from jealousy, but from the weight of years spent chasing their approval. I had worked nights at a diner to cover community college, my loans piling up like a silent scream. I gathered my courage and asked for help, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. My mother's eyes narrowed, her words slicing through me. She called me selfish, unworthy of their support. My father nodded, his silence louder than her scorn. The room felt smaller. Their dismissal confirmed my place in the family. I left the table, my footsteps heavy on the hardwood floor. By midnight, I had blocked their numbers and deleted my social media accounts, severing every digital thread tying me to them. The quiet that followed was deafening. I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes, grappling with a loneliness that felt both foreign and familiar. Memories of family dinners where my brother's stories dominated while mine were brushed aside flooded back. Yet in that solitude, a realization sparked. Being alone was better than begging for scraps of their affection. Days later, I confided in my coworker, Kelsey Reed. She listened, her eyes soft but unflinching, and suggested therapy. I hesitated. Therapy felt like admitting defeat, but her insistence nudged me forward. I booked a session with Dr. Haley Lee, a name Kelsey swore by. Walking into her office, I felt exposed like a raw nerve. The first session was a blur of tears and fragmented thoughts. I recounted the dinner, the years of being sidelined, the weight of my mother's words. Dr. Lee didn't interrupt. She let me unravel. Her presence was a quiet anchor. I described how my brother's wedding fund felt like a final verdict on my worth, how my parents' favoritism carved a hollow space inside me. Leaving that session, my chest felt lighter, as if I'd shed a layer of shame I hadn't even realized I carried. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The idea of family Sunday barbecues, shared laughter, it still tugged at me, but I saw it for what it was, a fantasy that never included me. I thought of my old marketing projects, ideas I'd scribbled in college notebooks, dismissed by everyone but me. Those ideas felt like a lifeline now, a way to channel the hurt into something tangible. I pulled out my laptop, scrolling through old files, my fingers trembling with a mix of fear and purpose. The pain of that dinner, the rejection, wasn't just a wound, it was fuel. I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew I couldn't stay still. Kelsey checked in the next day. Her texts were a small comfort. She didn't push, just reminded me I wasn't as alone as I felt. Dr. Lee's words echoed. Healing starts with seeing the truth. The truth was clear. My family's love came with conditions I could never meet. Cutting them off wasn't just defiance, it was survival. I wasn't sure what lay ahead, but for the first time, I felt the weight of their expectations lift. My apartment, once a symbol of struggle, became a space to rebuild. I wasn't running from them anymore. I was running toward myself. In my first therapy session, I sat across from Dr. Haley Lee, hands fidgeting as I pieced together a lifetime of being overshadowed. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the air conditioner. I felt the weight of unspoken truths pressing against my chest. Dr. Lee's calm gaze coaxed out memories I'd buried, moments where my family's favoritism wasn't just a feeling but a pattern. I described how my brother's achievements were celebrated, every milestone framed, and hung on our Fresno home's walls. My own efforts, straight A's, late-night study sessions, barely earned a nod. I recalled a childhood photo album where his 10th birthday filled pages with laughter and cake, while I was cropped out of a family picnic shot, my presence an afterthought. Dr. Lee guided me to see these moments as emotional neglect, a slow drip of disregard that shaped my self-doubt. The word abuse felt heavy, but it fit. The constant comparisons, the withholding of support, the way my parents justified their bias as my failure. Each therapy session peeled back another layer, revealing how their rejection had fueled my need to prove myself. I stopped blaming myself for their choices, a shift that felt like breaking chains. One evening, alone in my apartment, I flipped through old college notes from a class with Dr. Austin Martinez. His lectures on financial literacy had sparked an idea for an app to simplify budgeting for small businesses. I'd pitched it back then, but my family had dismissed it as impractical. Now that rejection became my fuel. I poured my pain into productivity, sketching wireframes on my laptop under the dim glow of a desk lamp. The hurt from that dinner, the sting of being called unworthy, it all transformed into relentless focus. I wasn't just working, I was rebuilding my worth. Nights blurred into weeks as I coded and refined the app in my Fresno apartment. The silence, once oppressive, became a canvas for my thoughts. I reached out to a local bakery, a small client willing to beta test my prototype. Their feedback, clunky interface but promising, pushed me to iterate faster. I'd sit cross-legged on my couch, surrounded by coffee mugs, tweaking algorithms until dawn. Dr. Martinez's voice echoed in my mind, urging clarity and user focus, principles I clung to as I shaped the app. Chelsea Reed, my coworker, became my sounding board, offering insights from her own marketing projects. Her encouragement, free of judgment, felt like a lifeline. The process wasn't just technical, it was personal. Every line of code, every user flow carried a piece of my resolve. I wasn't chasing my family's approval anymore. I was proving something to myself. The app began to take shape, its potential growing with each test. Local businesses started showing interest, owners asking for demos over coffee. I'd walk into those meetings, my heart racing but steady, knowing this was my path. The pain of being sidelined had become a catalyst, pushing me to create something they couldn't ignore. 6 months after my first therapy session, I stood in a sleek Fresno agency office, heart pounding as I prepared to pitch my app to Corey Cole, my boss. The room buzzed with the hum of ambition, but all I could focus on was the weight of my idea. A budgeting app born from college notes, now polished into a prototype. I'd spent nights refining it, pouring my resolve into every detail. Corey leaned forward, eyes sharp but curious, as I walked through the user flows, my voice steady despite my nerves. By the end, he didn't just approve, he offered me a partnership role to lead the product's development. That moment felt like a door swinging open, a validation I never received at home. The app's launch was a whirlwind. We secured a major retail chain as our first client, their contract pushing our small team into overdrive. My role as partner meant long hours, but each milestone, user growth, positive reviews, felt like a step away from my past. My salary climbed to $240,000, with equity that made me a multimillionaire on paper. The numbers were surreal, but they grounded me, proof that I'd built something undeniable. With success came new responsibilities. I met Sabrina Walsh, a no-nonsense financial advisor, who guided me through my newfound wealth. In her minimalist office, we mapped out a plan to clear my $43,000 student loan debt in one payment. The relief was visceral, like shedding a physical weight. Sabrina helped me diversify investments, stocks, real estate, even a small venture fund, securing my future in ways my family never had. Each decision was a brick in a foundation I'd built alone. The biggest leap came when I decided to buy a home. Driving through Fig Garden, Fresno's upscale enclave, I felt drawn to its quiet elegance. With Miranda Novak, a sharp real estate agent, I found a $5 million property, a modern estate with sprawling grounds. It wasn't just a house, it was a statement of independence. I worked with Brian Grant, an architect whose vision matched mine, customizing open spaces, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a study for late-night work. Jenna Klein, an interior designer with an eye for detail, brought warmth to the space with custom furniture and soft lighting. Walking through the finished home, I felt quiet pride, not in luxury, but in what it represented, a life I'd carved out despite the odds. The process wasn't just about money, it was reclaiming my narrative. Every meeting, every signature, reminded me how far I'd come from that dinner table rejection. Emails from new clients, praising the app, echoed the validation I'd once sought from my parents. The loneliness that once haunted my apartment had faded, replaced by purpose. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, building a legacy that didn't rely on anyone's approval but my own. A year after moving into my Fig Garden home, I attended a marketing conference in Fresno. My confidence buoyed by the app's success, I met Timothy Mitchell, a software engineer with a quick wit and kind eyes. Our conversation started over coffee breaks, dissecting industry trends, but soon spilled into late-night texts about life and dreams. He wasn't dazzled by my wealth or title. He saw me, the woman who'd fought for every step. I invited him to my home one evening, walking him through the open spaces and custom bookshelves. His admiration felt genuine, free of envy, a stark contrast to the judgment I'd grown up with. Our relationship grew steadily. Dinners at local bistros, weekend hikes, moments where I finally felt safe enough to let my guard down. With Timothy and Chelsea Reed, my co-worker turned confidant, I began building a new life, one not defined by my family shadow. Kelsey's laughter filled my home during game nights, her support a reminder that chosen family could outweigh blood. Timothy's quiet strength grounded me. When he asked about my past, I answered honestly, without bitterness. The hole left by my parents' rejection, once a raw ache, began to heal. Therapy had given me clarity, but these connections gave me warmth. I woke each morning feeling lighter, sipping coffee on my patio, no longer haunted by old wounds. 3 weeks ago, that peace shattered. My sister, Chelsea Soto, drove through Fig Garden on her way to a friend's house. She spotted my estate, its sleek lines, manicured lawn, and froze. I wasn't there, but I later learned she called our mother, her voice trembling with disbelief. Why does she have that? That call unleashed a flood. My phone buzzed with voicemails from my mother, her tone sharp and demanding, insisting I explain how I'd afforded such a home. My father left gruff messages, questioning my success, as if it were an affront. Even my brother chimed in, entitlement dripping from his words, asking why I hadn't shared my wealth. Aunt Karen and Uncle Jeffrey sent texts, cloaked in false concern but fishing for details. Each notification felt like a tug back to a past I had left behind. I listened to their voicemails in my study, the same space where I'd built my app. Their demands didn't just irritate, they reopened old scars. I remembered that dinner years ago, their dismissal of my struggles, their unwavering favoritism. Now my success was a mirror they couldn't bear to face. I didn't respond, but their persistence grew. Each message reminded me why I'd walked away. My home, my sanctuary, had become a beacon they couldn't ignore. And their reaction wasn't pride, it was resentment. I sat there, staring at my phone, realizing this wasn't about reconciliation. They wanted a piece of what I'd built, as if my years of struggle owed them something. The week after my sister's call, a letter arrived from my mother, Sierra, slipped under my door. Its neat handwriting was a jarring contrast to the chaos it unleashed. The words dripped with manipulation, weaving a tale of my brother's struggles, his wife's pregnancy, their tight finances, the dealership's faltering sales. Sierra framed it as my duty to help, as if my success were a debt owed to them. Each sentence twisted the knife, implying I'd abandon the family who'd given me everything. The audacity burned. Years of favoritism, the $80,000 for his wedding, my own pleas ignored. And now this. I sat at my desk, the fig garden sunset casting shadows across the page. The old wounds reopened, but I refused to let them bleed. I wrote back, my pen steady, heart racing. My letter was brief, unyielding. I owed them nothing. Their demands changed nothing. But I knew it wasn't enough. The truth deserved more than a private rebuke. I opened my laptop and drafted a post for X, laying bare the favoritism, how my parents poured money into my brother's life while dismissing mine, how that dinner 5 years ago broke me, and how I'd built my success alone. I hit post, fingers trembling, not from fear, but from the release of years of silence. The response was swift. Within hours, my post spread across Fresno's online circles, then beyond. Strangers shared their own stories of family bias. Their comments formed a chorus of empathy. Local business owners, once loyal to my father's dealership, questioned his integrity. My mother called the next day, her voice sharp with rage, accusing me of humiliating them. "You're tearing us apart," she hissed, but her words felt hollow, a last grasp at control. I didn't argue. I hung up. The silence that followed was louder than her fury. My brother's side became a topic online, some defending him, others doubting his entitlement. The dealership's name trended for all the wrong reasons, its reputation unraveling as customers turned away. I watched the fallout from my study, scrolling through X as notifications piled up. The post had gone viral, not because of drama, but because it struck a chord. People saw their own struggles in mine. I felt no joy in their humiliation, only quiet resolve. Their demands had exposed their true colors, and I'd shown the world what they'd hidden. The pain of their rejection, once a private burden, now fueled a public reckoning. I wasn't seeking revenge, just clarity for myself and anyone who had ever been overlooked. Days after my post went viral, I sat in my fig garden study, staring at my phone. The barrage of calls and messages from my family, Sierra, Derek, my brother, even distant relatives, hadn't stopped. Each one carried the same entitled tone, demanding I fix their problems or share my wealth. This time, I didn't hesitate. I blocked every number, deleted every voicemail, and severed the last threads tying me to them. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was liberating, a final step in reclaiming my peace. I'd spent years chasing their approval, but now I saw their demands for what they truly were: refusal to acknowledge my worth unless it served them. The fallout from my post rippled through Fresno. My father's dealership, once a local staple, began losing customers as the scandal spread. Posts on X detailed his favoritism, and locals who had once trusted him turned away. Their loyalty crumbled in the face of truth. My brother faced his own reckoning, too. The starter home bought with my parents' help became a financial strain after he lost his middle management job in California's downsizing wave. I didn't revel in their struggles. I felt nothing but resolve. Their choices had consequences, just as mine had led to my independence. In the midst of it all, Timothy proposed. We'd grown closer, his steady presence a calm contrast to the chaos of my past. I said yes, and we planned a small wedding in my backyard. Every detail was paid for by me. No lavish displays, just close friends like Kelsey Reed and a few colleagues under string lights, celebrating a future I had built. Standing there, exchanging vows, I felt a wholeness I'd never known growing up. My family's absence didn't sting. It felt right. A confirmation that I had chosen my own path. Reflecting on it all, I realized rejection had been my greatest fuel. Every dismissal, every time my parents chose my brother over me, every cold word at that dinner 5 years ago, it had pushed me to prove my worth. But it wasn't about them anymore. I had learned to value myself over their conditional love, to see that their approval was a trap I no longer needed to escape. My true family wasn't the one I was born into, it was the one I had chosen. Timothy, Kelsey, the people who saw me without expecting anything in return. They were my strength, my home, my proof that worth isn't measured by others' validation, but built through your own resilience. Sitting on my patio now, I look out at the life I've created. The app, the house, the wedding, they're not just milestones. They're evidence of what's possible when you let go of those who hold you back. I don't carry anger toward my family, only clarity. Their rejection shaped me, but it didn't define me. I defined myself. And that's the lesson I hold close. Your worth isn't tied to those who can't see it. Build your own path. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. And never let conditional love dim your light. If this story of family betrayal and self-made triumph resonates, smash that like button and subscribe for more gripping real-life dramas. Let's get into it.